And we are live. Hello, Juliana. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Alif?
Good, good. Thanks for asking. Hi, everyone. To everyone's listening, welcome to our weekly Friday live streams here with Payment Evolution. I'll be your host. My name is Alif, the marketing specialist here at Payment Evolution, and I have with me.
Head of Marketing, Juliana, JT China. Call me what you will. I don't offend easily.
I love that tagline. You always come up with new taglines every time we go live.
You'd think I would remember the one that I've said in the past. Instead, I don't know. I just ramble.
It adds like a refreshing taste to it. But yeah, if you're watching this right now, let us know in the comment section where you're tuning in from. If you have any thoughts, questions, or concerns throughout this live stream, be sure to put it down in the comment section and we'll literally put your comments on the screen and you'll be quote unquote famous. So if you want to be famous, be engaging with us.
Start typing.
Cool. And in today's live stream, we're going to do it a little differently. So I prepared a deck, and what we're going to talk about is how some of the world's top companies create a culture and that essentially breeds leaders. What are some key things they do within their organization when it comes to a culture perspective that really helps their employees to become successful leaders throughout their organization? I'm going to be breaking down 5 specific key points of what big companies are doing. And of course, I'll get Juliana's feedback and thoughts on each of the points. Any thoughts before we start?
I'm just excited. Like, I think any one of the gentlemen that are on screen, Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, Bob Iger, all of these people have so many different inspiring stories attached to them. But to your point, the themes, like there are interesting patterns, interesting themes. So I think we can learn from them in a macro way, which is really cool.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. So let's just jump right into it. Now, the first point when it comes to creating a organizational culture that fosters and breeds leadership is, the slides aren't moving. There we go. Is career development. Now, what do I mean when I say career development? So, for example, during my research for this presentation, I try to look into what companies are doing when it comes to mapping out career development for their employees. And what I've noticed is a lot of great companies, when it comes to creating a career development plan for their employees, they start as early as the recruitment process when it comes to their career. So that was interesting because I would assume, you get hired maybe 3 months later once you're done probation, then we start talking about your careers. But in this case, it seems like great companies, again, from my research, they tend to start having that career development conversation way early in the hiring process, even in the recruiting process, which is very interesting. I think we also have a joiner, Anthony Singh. Let's bring this comment up.
He actually is just switching devices, so he'll be with us soon. Anthony, you're already famous. Come say hello when you're back.
There we go. Yeah, but what are your thoughts on career development and having those conversations with new hires as early as the recruitment process as a source of breeding leaders?
Yeah, for sure. So this resonates with me. The fact is, when we're communicating, we are stacking the effectiveness of a message. You can't say something once and assume that it's going to just hit the mark the first time it's said or the first time it's heard. And so in marketing, for example, we know that we need to, first raise awareness. We need to explain we need to create a feeling, explain why we have shared values, that sort of thing. Talk about pains, talk about solutions. When we look at learning, whether you're looking at grade school or universities, this is a stacked process, and that's really how we develop. So it makes a ton of sense to me that you can't just hire somebody because they're at the top of the resume pile or did well in an interview. It's also about fit. It's about purpose alignment. It's about value alignment, and career development. Making sure that there's a trajectory within your organization for that person, and then finally the pieces around. We often think about training, but we really need to think about coaching. We need to think about mentoring. Career development happens at many different levels, and it has to be something you live and breathe. Or else it just won't get the attention that it deserves.
Yeah, exactly. I would also add on top of that, having a concrete career development plan is a great employer branding tool and a great recruiting tool. For example, I was looking into how Amazon kind of recruits their senior management and people in those kind of roles. And I found that a big part, like they have a landing page and they will say, join our leadership development program. And the biggest reason it seems like people want to join is because it's very clear how someone, when they join the program, they'll advance into a senior management position, and they outline exactly how they get into it. Even in the videos, you can see like they're literally following someone as they go from this level employee to this level employee. And it's very evident that the trajectory is clear. And it seems like they're really doubling down on the career development aspect to, again, recruit and source talent.
I think one really awesome example that I just have to share now is Lululemon, Canadian manufacturer of leisure wear and yoga wear and that sort of thing. And they have, I'm sure there are probably exceptions to the rule, but they have a rule that if you're going to be in leadership, if you're going to be an executive, you started in a store. Every one of their employees starts at the store level. And how cool is that? Because I know I've seen so many people say, like have huge dreams in terms of career development, what they want to achieve. And so it's kind of demoralizing when you go and work at the entry level job in a completely different industry. Well, here's a model where you can work from entry level through to leadership, which is very, very cool.
Yeah, exactly. It also incentivizes people. And I agree. I think if you're going to be senior executive, you should see things at the front lines too, so that when you're making high level decisions, you understand and you're empathetic to people who are in the front line. Perfect. Going to the next point. It is mentorship. Now, when I say mentorship, I don't mean mentorship as in like a manager to an employee type of relationship. So, for example, in one of my last companies I worked at, it was in the recruiting space, and they paired me up with someone who was in more of a senior level role, who wasn't directly my manager. In fact, the guy was from Poland. I'm in Toronto, but he would be kind of like my mentor, my go-to mentor if I ever have any questions, need advice on anything. And what I found was that I felt I had a space where I can be comfortably myself and get some genuine guidance, because there can be times where, there's things you don't want to say to your manager because, this is going to be spread around. It's going to help affect my career development. But then, when you talk with your friends, it's one thing. But when you need advice from someone 5 steps ahead of you from a non-judgmental place who doesn't have any stakes in where your career goes, it's nice to have that type of support. So it seems like, from my experience and my research, mentorship plays a huge role when it comes to fostering and creating culture that breeds leadership.
I love that. So can I ask you, was it just ad hoc? Like if you needed help, you would reach out, or did you guys have a certain obligation? Like we were supposed to talk once a week, once a month, what was the structure there, if any?
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. There was a structure. So it would be once every 2 weeks that we would be scheduled for these kind of 1-hour calls. And it was more on the mentor side to kind of push for these calls, which was interesting. A couple of things I would know if you are trying to implement some similar type of process is, first, make sure there's a personality fit between the mentor and the mentee. I know I perform the best when I get the right advice from a specific mindset of a person compared to a different mindset. So try to fit together people who kind of are like-minded. And second, you gotta kind of have to want to be in a mentorship kind of program. There were times where I'm like, wait, why are you calling me? What's happening? Oh, we're part of a mentorship program. Oh, this is part of your, okay. Because I was kind of caught off guard. So if you're kind of going to implement a mentorship program, it'd be good if you can create a system around it. So maybe communicate both ways. Oh, you're going to be mentored with this person because of blah, blah, blah. It's a safe space, all these great things. And what's interesting is that mentor of mine, he would actually track my progress. So, from the first call, he'd always touch base. Okay, in the first call, you mentioned this, but now you're seeing this. How are you feeling about this? And by the time our last call came, he was like, hey man, you're a completely new person. This is crazy because I remember in the first call you were here, but now you're here. So it's nice to be kind of recognized and validated in that sense.
Yeah, that's really awesome. So some interesting things that I want to pull out of that. You mentioned that because this person wasn't your direct manager, or didn't work by your side, you had a different kind of freedom to speak openly, which is really cool. And I want to really challenge leaders out there. And when I say leaders, I I believe everyone can be a leader. I believe leadership is a choice, not a title. So if you consider yourself a leader, then this message is for you. Think about the ways that you can mentor people. Make yourself mentor worthy. You might be so excited about the prospect of inspiring someone, somebody who's a few years behind you, or I don't know, whatever it is that makes you feel connected to that person. But you might be completely delusional about the idea that they know that you want to do that. So there's sometimes just this disconnection. I know personally, I've looked for, like I've heard a lot about mentors and sponsors, like find somebody who will advocate for you in your career. And it's not that easy. I've asked people before, you know, I would love a mentor. Is that something that you'd be interested in doing? I haven't done anything formal like this before. And oddly enough, I've been turned down every time.
Really?
Crazy,
Wow.
right? Yeah. And I don't think it was ever personal. I think it was like, I don't know what that is gonna mean. Like, what if I fail you? I don't know what you need from me. And it's just, I know we all get a great deal of pleasure out of supporting each other. Not we all, a lot of us will get pleasure out of mentoring. Then put it out there, because there's somebody who's going to get pleasure and growth and all of that from being the mentee.
Right.
But it can be hard to ask.
Exactly. And, you know, in this context from this live stream we're doing, I'm speaking from the perspective of management down, but speaking from the perspective of like the person up, even outside of work, what I realized when I've had mentors in my life, it's not like a ribbon bow tie kind of thing where you reach out to someone, hey, can you be my mentor? And they put you through like a 6-week coaching curriculum and they'll teach you all this thing, kind of like Karate Kid. And you know, I forgot their names, but I realized in real life, it's really not like that. When it comes to a mentor to mentee relationship in real life, it's mainly the person seeking the mentorship. It's going to be a relationship where they're always pushing, they're always sending the emails, they're always asking the questions. They're the ones always keeping the other person in the loop, and the other person can help out if they feel like it. But everything is self-guided from the mentee's perspective and not from the mentor's perspective. And I think that's what mentorship is in. It looks like in 2021, and Tim Ferriss says this a lot in his podcast too. So that's what I realized when it comes to mentors.
Yeah, and I grew up working very, very young. I have a bias here. I think if I'm going to be a mentor to someone, I want them to be proactive. I want them to be driving the relationship. Show me your hunger. I promise I'll show up. But it really does depend on the two personalities. So I don't think there's a one size fits all, other than the fact that mentorship is powerful.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Awesome. So that's number 2. Number 3 is individual development. So a consistent theme that sort of came up from my research when it comes to organizations that really create a culture that breeds leadership is they support employees not just professionally, but they also tie things down personally as well. So even previous example with the mentorship kind of program, it was advised that companies also like mentor employees based on their personal life as well, not just always work life. And you know, point number 3 here is individual development. And it seems like the most successful companies that can develop leaders also support employees in their personal life as well, not just their professional life. So whether that is a course you want to take on whatever skill you want to go for, and we'll cover it, or a university course you want to take, we'll cover it, whatever it is, they really like emphasize individual development within their employees.
I think that is also very powerful, and I want to talk to not the leader in this situation, but the individual, the employee. I don't care if you're CEO or if you are, I don't know, at one of the front desks or something. Like you need to also own your individual development. So I agree. I think it is a best practice for organizations that want to develop leaders. You should make it very clear on a regular basis and live the practice that, in fact, developing you as a person is key. I'm doing it. You should be doing it. The fact is, the more senior you go in an organization, the further you are away from the trenches. And oftentimes you end up leaving the hands-on work behind, and you are a people leader. So if you are the most incredible coder, or you are the most incredible, I can't even think of another job right now. I was trying to think of something in a manufacturing environment, and then you become like the plant manager or something. The fact is, you may have grown all of these skills for the job that you have, not for the job you will have. And those interpersonal skills, that individual development is huge. I will also add, on a personal note, like many people in their 20s, I finished school and I had all of this excitement and purpose, feeling very driven. And then I was actually really disenchanted with the working world. And I was very, ultimately, I ended up dealing with some depression. And I am a learning junkie. I have 2 degrees. I've read a lot of books. I follow like every thought leader that I can possibly fit in my inbox. But when I had depression and I went to therapy, I can tell you, I learned more about human behavior by sitting there and talking through the minutia of my own experiences than I could have ever learned in school.
Wow.
So there's just so much, like that made me a better marketer than the formal education did. And now maybe I couldn't have done it without the formal education, but without the therapy, and for me, that's just another form of learning. Without that individual personal learning journey, I don't think I would be the marketer I am today. And the way I would define that is I'm not just somebody who churns out PDFs or emails. There's a strategy behind the work that I do. And I think about the person who's receiving the message and why should they care? Yeah, so you can't be methodical about everything around you if you don't see yourself clearly.
Wow, that's deep. Wow, you just dropped a deep quote right there. That's perfect.
You know me.
Yeah, I love that. Just deep quote dropper. Perfect. Going to number 4 then, in that case. Volunteer opportunities. Again, this ties into the previous example, but a lot of great organizations, this consistent theme is they invest in people in their outside of work life. So in this case, a lot of organizations, what they will do is you get the day off or a couple of days off and it's still paid, and you get to take the time to volunteer at your favorite organization, or they'll match your donation to your favorite charity or something of that nature. And I think the biggest thing that they're trying to go for is making the employee feel like the company's got their back and is interested in what they're interested in. And it seems like once that is established in the head of an employee, then they're more likely to opt in to be more leader, take more proactiveness, enjoy the company, represent the company, and things of that nature. What are your thoughts on this, Juliana?
Yeah, well, first of all, I have to call out that we have opportunities here. So we're in a very cat-like mood. And this is, I think, a little example about how we are spread across so many different activities, right? And so when a person is working on 15 different projects and they have to go fast, they also need to replenish their soul. And volunteer opportunity is a really great way to do that. Other things that I've heard that I think, other strategies I've heard of that I think align with giving your people time to volunteer is giving them time to work on a project that they love. I will often use Post-its as an example of a product that came out of an individual employee working on their own time on a project they were interested in that was not part of the bigger organizational agenda. So yeah, I think if you give people a chance to shine, they will show their purpose. And this is, maybe one organization working, volunteering is going to be more important to that group than another. And the other organization wants to do more training or whatever. So know your people and recognize that we're all spread thin. And so we need to fill our cup too. We can't do work all the time with no replenishment, with no joy. If it's just about churning things out, then you're disconnecting from the purpose, I think. And that's really what volunteer opportunities are about in my mind. Yeah,
right. You can't be stuck in the treadmill all day, just kind of running. Then you need time off and just do your own thing too, right? Perfect. And last point, and you're right, opportunity, I just realized, oh my gosh.
It's fine. We are spread thin. We hustle all the time. At Payment Evolution, we are machines. So little things like that happen. But I wanted to call it out because
It's a cat. Purr. That was the emphasis. Or
Or
that's what we're trying to do.
totally. All
Cool.
right.
Number 5 is transparency. So a lot of organizations, what they tend to do is again promote the idea of transparency. So whether it comes to your career and where you want to go, or your performance, or lateral movements, things of that nature, or just general feedback. The best companies, what they do is they take the time to actually be transparent with the employees about what is happening, what is going on, and again, make them feel safe where they are so they can see
Mhm.
exactly where they need to go. I can only imagine working under a stressful environment where you have no idea what's happening. You're always
Mhm.
anxious. You're not going to be a top performer. But if you're
Sure.
working in an environment where you understand what the layout of the land is, you feel comfortable, you feel safe, it gives you space and time to just be your best self at work.
Mhm.
So transparency is huge.
Yeah, I think what's so scary about transparency, well, there's two things. One, it's a bit of a buzzword, and a lot of people talk about transparency but don't live it. And so to say, my door is always open, you can talk to me about anything, and I'll be transparent with you, and then chew someone's head off when they come in to give you feedback, or when they ask a question about something that isn't, their responsibility or in their job description. That, like, I'm sorry, but the transparency is not a word you put on the wall and say it's a value. Transparency is something you live. And
Mhm.
it's so hard because transparency requires vulnerability.
Mhm.
In order to be transparent, you have to be seen. In order to be seen truly, you need to let people see your successes and failures. You need to let them see the things that you're juggling and struggling with. And I think that is a counterproductive idea to a lot of people when it comes to leadership. We think of leaders, especially in sort of an old school traditional way, we think of them as having all the answers and being directive, and never needing to ask the team for help.
Mhm.
They are the captain.
Mhm.
It's all what they say and don't ask questions. Do what I say, not what I do. That kind of scenario. And so I think transparency between leadership and really between everybody, because we all just have different responsibilities. And if, I don't know, the finance department is hiding details from me as a marketer, I it's not that it's my business. It's not that I'm going to do anything with that information, but it gives me context to work with. It helps me
Mhm.
understand what the framework is, what the environment is, and why certain things are important. It's a shortcut. Transparency is a shortcut to efficiency and to great communication. So yeah, I think transparency is a huge element of the way that I interact with people, the way that I lead, the way that I follow. And if you don't want the real me, if you don't like the real me, don't work with me, because you're getting the real me. And that's
Mhm.
another thing. If you are completely uncomfortable with transparency, you might lose opportunities to work with people who really do challenge you and give you an opportunity to stretch and grow, discover
Mhm.
new strengths for yourself.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
you speak from the employee's perspective. I've had like managers in the past where like I have no idea what's going on. Like I just tell them something, but then it seems like they didn't really listen, or they come out of nowhere, call me, oh, you changed to another team. I'm like, what? Like I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
And I've had managers like self look very transparent, and I feel like, okay, cool. I have a good understanding of where things are going, how I'm doing, and everything. And I can tell you, like the transparency, like I just feel more safer, like compared to like not getting that transparency from management. It's such a huge piece, and I feel like I want to perform when things are more transparent.
Mhm. Yeah, it's interesting because even in a managerial position, I had a similar experience. There was another manager in a parallel department to mine. We were both managing different teams, and one day at a company-wide meeting, so everyone in the company was there. The most senior leader announced that she was amalgamating our departments, and who was going to be reporting to who. And it was fine, but it really would have been nice to know before the whole company knew. So we didn't know. Well, I do believe that my peer knew that the departments were being merged, and it was just, talk about throwing you off. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, well, if I'm responsible for the delivery of this work, how can I do that if I don't even know what the parameters, what the group is, the context, all of that? So don't skip steps. Don't assume anything.
Right.
Talk it out, over communicate. If you err on the side of over communication, you might just communicate enough.
Another good quote. You keep dropping them.
Yeah. I mean, my goal is to, okay, I have a dictionary of quotations. One day I would like to be listed in one of these dictionaries of quotations, alongside the Shakespeare's and such.
You'll be the
see.
Shakespeare's.
We'll see.
The next Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, not quite. It's very different. I don't do poetry.
That's okay.
Not publicly, anyway.
Oh, this is a whole new world to you, huh? Perfect. So that is it for the tips. So again, 5 tips to create a better culture that breeds leadership and things of that nature. Yes, Juliana.
Yeah, I want to bring it back to ththose images at the beginning. We had these iconic leaders on that intro screen. We had Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, Bob Iger, and these, like, there are literally studies on the leadership of these individuals. And I think that there's something that kind of flows through all of the 5 things that we talked about that I want to quickly cover. And that's the fact that these people, they rolled up their sleeves, they got their hands dirty, they did the work. And I'm not as familiar with Bob Iger's working style, but being at Disney, I have a hard time imagining that he is as notorious as Steve and Jeff are for being intolerant of failure. Maybe he's a bit kinder about it. I don't know. Maybe I'm being maybe I'm being naive. But the fact is, Bob Iger was, as a teenager, he took a summer janitor job. He was scraping gum off the bottom of desks. Jeff Bezos is obsessed with the focus on the customer. He literally revolutionized his organization and the retail industry by coming up with a Prime membership that doesn't require you to pay for delivery. He figured out that it was the delivery fee that made people so uncomfortable about buying something. Why should I buy this thing when it's going to cost me, half that much just to get it here? So just that obsessive focus on the customer, and Steve Jobs, the obsessive focus on quality, completely intolerant for shortcuts and for mistakes, and so these are people who rolled up their sleeves. In 2 of these cases, at least, started their companies. So they talk about the Lululemon example. These are people who were on the front line from day one, right? And then it's hard to have certain conversations. Performance conversations can be hard. But the one thing that I always remember is that if somebody is giving me criticism, constructive criticism, a frustrated critique, whatever it may be, they are investing in me by giving me that information. And we can all choose who we want to work for. And if we don't like someone's tone, if we don't like the way that they speak to us, we don't have to be there. But remember that having a standard requires working really hard to achieve it, doing the hard work, like doing the dirty work, and ultimately caring enough to talk about those difficult things. Yeah. So
yeah.
I just wanted to underscore that theme across these leaders, and the tone they've set in their organizations.
Yeah, for sure. I resonate with that 100%. And I think out of these 3 people, Steve, Jeff, Bob Iger, the one who I'm really most fascinated about out of all 3 is actually Bob Iger, because he wasn't the entrepreneur who started Disney. He wasn't that guy who was in the garage and making things. He actually worked his way up the company, almost like an intrapreneur, and then eventually became the CEO. And for me at least, I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not gonna create the next Apple. I don't plan to create the next Apple. I don't want to create a startup and stuff. Instead, I want to work my way up and make a company great. And to me personally, I almost feel like I can parallel more of Bob Iger than I can of Steve Jobs right now.
Yeah.
It's just a thought that sort of came to mind.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I think that is very fair. Like I think that that's fascinating about Bob Iger as well. I think I find Steve Jobs most fascinating for a couple of reasons. One, he was ousted from his company with, it was a pretty emotional ousting, and then came back, and he didn't just come back because they had a position for him. He came back because they needed him, and I just find like that dynamic must have been very uncomfortable.
Oh my God! Can you imagine?
I can't.
That meeting, like,
yeah.
Hey, we need you back. Oh, now you want me back, huh? Like,
well, and here's the thing. I want to believe that the reason he was brought back is because no one knew the mission, the purpose. No one lived it like him, and it was all about the product and the service. And it might have just been all about the money. Apple was making a lot of money when he was there, and then that stopped when he was gone, and it improved again when he came back. So I think it's just so interesting to me, the interplay between our goals and then the interpersonal relationships that are so complicated. And Steve Jobs was a notoriously difficult man. So the fact that he was still someone people looked up to, I think is, I don't know, I find it fascinating.
Yeah, no, and I heard stories of people who work for him and what it's like. It sounds crazy, like intense. Like if something's off, he'll yell at you and you might lose your job. Like it seems like a stressful kind of place to work at, but people like it,
Yeah. Well, he really made people feel like they were a part of something bigger. Right. Yeah. So there was something special there. It wasn't just being verbally abused all day. you were a part of something that meant something to you too. And if you weren't, you probably weren't performing, and you should get out.
Yeah, exactly. You already know. Perfect. Well, that does conclude today's live stream. So again, 5 tips to create a company culture that inspires leadership within your organization. And I guess with that being said, where can people find us, Juliana, or specifically you?
Yeah, you can find me online. Just type in JTCINA. That's JT China. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and lots of places. And ultimately, we are here doing this with Payment Evolution. So you can check us out, PayEvo. So Pay PayEvo.
You forgot where you work at?
No, I was just stripping over the words, the letters. Anyway, I have ADHD and my brain jumps a lot. But yeah, PayEvo. You can find us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. We are so obsessed with our community. Like we want to bring you guys value, whether you're a paying customer or an aspiring entrepreneur that's like 5 years away from launching. We are just so passionate about supporting small business in Canada. So please be in touch. It makes us very happy.
There we go. Awesome. Perfect. And again, guys, we'll be back next week, same time, same place. And just be on the lookout for our social media posts when we go live next time. And until then, we will see you guys next week. Later, everyone.